I believe that most people bring their dreams down to match their reality. And what I want to teach you today is how to rise up to meet your dreams. Does that sound good? All righty. So question I have for you. I want to ask you, show of hands, who would rather be happy? Who would rather be wealthy? Who wants to be happy? Wow, okay. Who wants to be wealthy? Okay, a few of you. Okay, all right. So that's okay. So follow along with me, play along with me. So what I want everyone to do now is I want everyone to do a nice big yawn, and not just like this polite little thing, but kind of when you like stretch out and feel your arms and fingers, and even though these are comfy chairs, just really stretch and feel your fingers getting longer and all that. And if you were the happiest person in the world, what would that be like? What would that feel like? And when I've asked people in the past, like someone said, if I was the happiest person, I'd be like on that beach with pina coladas. Someone else said, like, I'd be on top of this mountain just overlooking this amazing view. A person I asked yesterday said, I would just be jumping up and down, right? So what I want you now to do is I'm going to ask everybody to turn, oh, someone's got their phone. Thank you. I'm going to ask everybody to turn your head really slowly, whether you turn it clockwise, counterclockwise, it doesn't matter. And I'll show you what you're going to do. You're kind of just going to go like that, turn it really slowly. Close your eyes if you'd like to kind of just focus in. As you're turning it slowly, I want you to think about, what if you were the wealthiest person in the world? What would you do with your money? Now, somebody told me if they were the wealthiest person, they'd find a cure to AIDS. Someone else said if they were the wealthiest person, they'd build all these schools in Africa. Someone else told me if they were the wealthiest person, what they would do is their kids could go to any college, school, whatever they wanted to make their kids the best educated ever. For me, if I was the wealthiest person in the world, my mom is seriously ill. If I was the wealthiest person in the world, she loves to travel. I would have a private jet for her. I would have doctors traveling with us. I'd have nurses. I'd take her wherever she wanted to go. I'd make sure she had private trips arranged wherever she wanted to sightsee. Whatever she wanted so she could see more before her life was over. And better yet, with all that money, I'd find a cure. I'd find a cure. That's what I would do. So I want to ask you again, when you were thinking about rather be happy or wealthy, who wants to be happy? Who wants to be wealthy? Yeah, so let me just kind of share with you, because this has to do with breaking through. So when they used to do research years ago, and they asked people, would you rather be happy or would you rather be wealthy? Everyone was like, oh, I just want to be happy, right? That's kind of like the thing. I just want to be happy and, smile and do good things for everybody and all that kind of stuff. Well, they found out, recent studies that that's not where people's heads are anymore. People would rather be wealthy. And that's because happiness is hard to measure. Right? If I gave you a candy bar, if I gave a little kid, a 7-year-old kid, a candy bar, the kid would be ecstatic. If I gave you a candy bar, you'd be like, yeah, big deal. So how do you measure happiness? But money, if I gave that 7-year-old kid $1 million, that 7-year-old kid understands money. If I gave you $1 million, you understand it too, right? Everybody gets it. So what's happened is people's philosophies around money and breaking through to that level has changed because you realize what you can actually do with money. And so what they found out is that when you're able to experience money and do either whether it's spend your money on experiences or do things for people, that you're actually happier than without the money. So we want to talk about that today because so often, even just the thought of breaking through stops people. Because let's say they're going like money, ew. Well, I want to share with you, there's a lot you can do if you break through to that next level. And just think about it with Charlotte, for example. She's got 300 people signed up for this. Don't you think she can do a whole lot more with 300 attendees who bought tickets than if 5 people? Right? So just think about it for the breakthrough. So I learned about attracting more abundance and being able to break through when I was a little girl. And whoever watched the TV show Bewitched? Did you guys love Samantha? Okay, thank you. So when I was a little girl, I used to walk around, I'd wiggle my nose. Anyone else do that? Yeah, okay. And I really figured the more I wiggled it, the more I could really kind of be like her because, look, she'd have the car show up in front of her house, whatever she needed, whatever she wanted would just magically show up. And I figured I'm going to practice and be perfect at it. And I also figured that when I grew up, I could be like Samantha. I thought I was genetically inclined. And that's because my uncle actually created the TV show. Yeah, really. So I thought that's who I was meant to be. Well, you fast forward all these years later, I'm not Samantha, but I did learn that the universe is full of abundance and there's no limit. So to break through, it isn't like you can have a breakthrough but you can't. You can have one but you can't. Everybody can break through if you decide you want it. It's a matter of having the clarity to say that you want to do it, taking those steps forward to do it, deciding to go, and then being able to receive it. Is everyone getting that? Okay, so that's actually quite a few blocks that will keep you from actually breaking through. And I want to talk about those today because as much as you're going to be inspired going, yeah, like today, you're going to hear all these amazing speakers and be like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. I will guarantee you most of you will 2 or 3 days later be back to where you were. And so I want to talk to you about that because I'm a dentist's daughter. I'm very much into preventative care. You brush your teeth so you don't get cavities. And I want to share these things with you so you get it, so you can be on the lookout for it to help you continue to move forward. So the first is your limiting beliefs. And this is all around mindset. So limiting beliefs are how you see yourself in relationship to the world. So this is when you tell yourself, like, no one in my company, no one in my city, nobody in my industry, nobody in my family, women don't, men don't, boys don't, girls don't. It's almost like it could be written on, the front page of a newspaper. So what you've done is, in essence, you've stopped yourself. You put that wall there. And one of my clients, she got a job as a financial planner, and they even told her up front, they said, your first year income, don't expect to make a lot. Nobody ever does. And when she told me that, when she hired me, I'm like, that's ridiculous. And of course, we helped her make a lot of money. But when you have these limitations, if you say like nobody ever has, you're going to stop yourself. The second type of block that can hold you back is your core belief. And your core belief is how you view yourself. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not deserving of this. When I've tried it before, it hasn't worked. I used to tell myself I wasn't technologically savvy when I first started my business. And that stopped me. So when you hold yourself and you tell yourself these stories, they hold you back. One of my clients realized that as much as she wanted to step forward and really increase what she was doing and break through, she realized that if she broke through, all her friends would be mad at her. They wouldn't be her friends anymore because they were back at this level and she wanted to go here. Now that was her belief, not saying it's true, but understand from a very young age, basically from infancy, we all have this basic need to be loved. So if you feel that by you stepping forward, people are either going to be mad at you, not like you, maybe even hate you, maybe they'll point and talk about you, that will stop you from moving forward. So you're letting other people determine your success. Next belief and block that can hold you back is your money story. And I'm not talking about things like, rich people are evil and money doesn't grow on trees. I'm not talking about those things. I'm actually talking about a deeper level. And this is how you experience money as a child, how you saw your parents spend money. Did they spend money? Did they save? How did they talk about money? Did they agree about money? Did they argue about money? One of my clients who was stuck increasing her income, we found out it's because growing up, she always saw her parents, the only thing they ever argued about was money. And her dad would go to work every day. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. Her mom would go shopping. And so what her mom would do was whatever she bought, she'd stick it in the car trunk. So her father never saw it. And then she'd pull it out a couple months later and he'd say like, oh, is that new? She's like, oh no, this old thing, I've had it for a while. Well, sure, she had it for a while, right? So technically she was being honest. But so what my client thought is that money is something that it's bad. You hide about it. It causes conflict. It's not a good thing. So when you're holding stories like that, you are naturally not going to want to make more money. So it means you have to shift your money story. Another block that will hold you back is your self-image. And we've all heard stories about somebody who says, like, let's say they're a bank teller and they want to be the bank manager, so they start dressing like the bank manager. They dress a little nicer. And I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a whole lot deeper. And so let's talk about, for example, lottery ticket winners. Now, in the States, they've done studies, and so I don't know what it's like here, but at least for the States, that, most of these lottery ticket winners, they lose their money in a couple of years. So what happens is, here they are, they're hourly workers, they buy lottery tickets year after year, week after week, and one of them hits payday. They win millions of dollars. What do? They buy the McMansion, they buy the fancy cars, they buy the boats, maybe they get some gold and jewelry for themselves or their friends, maybe they buy their friends or parents things too. Within a couple years, it's all gone. Often they even declare bankruptcy. So why is that? It's because they haven't changed their mindset. They still see themselves as an hourly worker. So understand, if you now have $1 million, you've got to change your mindset. You've got to start thinking, how would a millionaire think? Well, a millionaire got a couple $1 million, they'd be saying like, okay, where am I going to get the best return? Where's the best place for me to invest it? Who do I need to hire to help me do that? They wouldn't be like, let me buy this, 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 this. So that person was thinking like an hourly worker. So naturally, it makes sense. A couple years later, they're back to being an hourly worker. That's their self-image. So if you want to step forward, you have to personally change your self-image. You also have fears and doubts. What if this doesn't work? What if it's too hard? What if I fail? What if I succeed? All that stuff is going to hold you back. Also, stress and overwhelm. Most people are so stressed most of the time, they don't even realize they're stressed. And they've done brain scans. And do you know that a stressed out brain looks really, really similar to a brain that belongs to an alcoholic or somebody with Alzheimer's? So can you imagine, how can you make good decisions for yourself if your brain is operating the same way as somebody who's an alcoholic? That's like impossible, wouldn't you agree? Now the last thing I want to share with you that could be holding you back is the how. Okay, so I want to step forward, but how do I do it? Well, it makes sense because if you've never done it before, you aren't going to know how to do it. It's impossible. So that's why you've got to sit there and say, okay, so what do I need to do? Do I need to hire a coach? Do I need to go to events like this? Do I need to read books? Do I need to watch videos? What do I need to do? But most people will stop themselves with all those blocks. And if any of you tell yourself, if any of you in this audience say, oh, I don't have those blocks, I will tell you honestly, you are lying to yourself because everybody does. And every time you up level, you find more blocks. So again, the whole point is to have you rise up so you can break through and do all those things you want to do. Now, something I do with my clients quite often is a technique which I'm an expert in called tapping. Has anyone ever heard of tapping? Okay. So you guys want to try a little tapping? That's great because I was planning on it. So I don't know what I would have done if you had said no. So tapping, because I only have a limited amount of time, I don't have time to go in the whole explanation. I am an expert internationally on it. I've been on big, huge telesummits, 500,000 people listening to me, so I know what I'm doing. And what I'm just going to ask you to do, and there's more details in my book about tapping if you want to learn more, or if you come to one of my events, is I'm going to ask you just to kind of follow along with me like Simon says. And also to tell you, tapping is meant to be very, very gentle. If for some reason it bothers you, please just stop. Be responsible for your own well-being. So what I want you to think about right now is get a number in your head, 0 to 10. 0, like, hey, I'm already shattering my own ceiling. There's glass all over the place because I'm just rocking it. And 10, like, are you kidding? It's never going to happen. I've tried things before. My family members don't. I don't. It's just never, ever going to happen. So just mentally have that number in your head if you want to write it down and then just kind of let that number go, and we're just going to tap. So tapping is like Simon says. It's probably the one, that's how it looks at least. It's probably one of the most powerful ways to change your mindset. And one of the fastest and gentlest and most graceful. So what we're going to do, again, just follow along as best as you can with me if you've never tapped before. We're going to start on both karate chops. And you're going to repeat after me what I say. And I love this. 300 people in the room all tapping together. That's awesome energy. Okay, even though, repeat after me, even though I don't believe I could ever break through my ceiling, it feels impossible. I want to find a way to love and accept myself. Even though it seems impossible, I could never break through my ceiling. Never ever in a million years. I want to find a way to love and accept myself. Even though I don't believe it's possible to break through, I want to find a way to love and accept myself and maybe find a way to do it. Okay, shake your hands out. We're going to go to the eyebrow points. Again, repeat after me. Tap where I tap. I don't think it's possible. Outer eye. I just don't think it's possible. Under eye. It seems impossible. How could I ever do it? Chin point. I haven't been able to do it so far in my life. Collarbone. What makes me think I can do it now? Underarm. Sure, right now I'm feeling inspired. Liver point, but who knows what's going to happen a week from now when I go back to reality. Top of the head, it just might be impossible. Inner eye, but what if it's not? What if I actually learn 1 or 2 things today Under eye, that actually helps me shift. Under nose, it might be a small shift. Chin point, it might be a big shift. Collarbone, but it doesn't really matter. Because it is a shift and a step forward. Liver point, so I'm going to trust the process. Wrist point, I'm going to be open and present and keep myself safe. Okay, everyone take a nice deep breath and feel yourself releasing some of your fears around that. That feel good to everybody? Yeah. Usually tapping feels really, really good. And think about your number. You may have noticed your number dropped down from 0 to 10. You might notice it's dropped down. And if your number went sideways, or stayed the same, don't worry about it. It's not a bad thing. It just means there's more fears and things that you need to work on. Those are things we need to work on to clear out. So just write those things down. Don't be afraid, or don't say it's not working. It's actually a good thing. It's saying like, hey, look at me. So what you really want to think about is now that, with tapping, again, it's a way to clear things out. And the whole point is I want to really leave you all to be thinking about your dreams are here. You're bringing your dreams down to meet your reality. That's what most people do. And again, I want to ask you, if you were able to break through your ceiling, what could you do? What would be different in your lives? Would you be living in a different place? Would you be doing different things in your free time? Would you be hanging out with different people? What about your family? What could you do for them if you had a breakthrough that you aren't doing right now? More education, more resources. If you had kids, maybe you're paying for college education. If it's your parents, if you have elderly parents, maybe you're helping with their retirement. And what about your bank account? What if you could add a few zeros? I've helped a lot of my clients do that. So can you imagine, what if you could add a few zeros? What would be different? And what about your community? What could you do for your community that you aren't doing today? What could you either do more of? And lastly, what about your legacy? I never used to talk about legacy. Maybe I felt invincible, but I never really kind of talked about it. And I speak all over the place, and I just never did. Until about a year ago, my dad passed away, and I had the honor of holding one of his hands as he took his last breath. I'm sorry, it's still hard to talk about. And when you go through an experience like that, I don't think there's anything more powerful that I will ever experience in my whole entire life. When you see someone transition from here. And I said to myself, there's all the different stages they write about for grief. And there's all these different stages. And I said, you know what? What really matters is my dad's life needs to mean something. My life needs to mean something. And this experience I just spent with him, that needs to mean something. And what I took from that is that I need to break through. Even though I keep thinking, I'm breaking through, I needed to break through to the next level. And for me, the way it showed up was I wrote a new book. I already had a best-selling book. It was out a couple of years ago. It was international bestseller, and that's all great. I could have just sat there on my butt and said, hey, this is awesome, and pretended to smoke cigarettes. But I said, no, I've got a gift. I know how to make people break through, and I spent the time, the energy, the uncomfortableness, all the fears that I mentioned before, all those things popped up for me each and every day. But I did it because I said, if I can help one person from reading this book, if I can help one person shift and change, my dad's life was not in vain. What I'm doing is not in vain. And who knows what they'll do? Maybe they'll help build more schools in Africa. Maybe they'll find a cure for what's ailing my mom. Maybe they'll help their kids go to better schools. Who knows what they'll do? And what if it's not just one person? What if it's 2 or 5 or 10 or 100 or 500 from my legacy? And I want to challenge all of you to be thinking about that, because it's always the decision. It's always the decision. Either you're going to go or you're not going to go. It's your choice. If you want to have your dreams come down to your reality, or you want to rise up to your brilliance, are you going to go or not go? You choose. It's always your choice. It's always your choice. I hope you choose to go. Thank you.